Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where you'll hear stories about people who believe the world revolves around them and that nobody else on Earth matters. Guys, I hope you're having a great day today, and Karens are about to make your day a little bit better, so strap yourselves in and get ready to shake your heads. I do hope you enjoy the stories today, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I have a coworker who's a mooch. If you get something for lunch, he wants you to get him something too. But here's the thing. He expects you to buy it for him because since you mentioned it, he says that you offered. Now, at first, I thought maybe he had a money problem. But then I overheard him laughing and bragging to someone in another department how he was able to scam lunches out of his coworkers, and he's attempted to score a free meal out of someone more than once. Now, his general entitled attitude is one of the many reasons that I don't like him. So, yesterday, my girlfriend and I had lunch together. The guy overhears me confirming time and location before I left, and then he asked what I was bringing him, and I told him nothing. He said that since I brought it up, that I should bring him back something. So I corrected him. I told him I was confirming with my girlfriend and that he was just eavesdropping on my conversation. He then starts complaining, so I said if he gave me money for his food, I'd bring him something back, but I wasn't gonna buy him food. The guy then starts complaining about it again, so I got irritated and said no money, no food, and then I left. When I got back, my boss said that my coworker complained that I was being hostile towards him. I told my boss what happened and how he was constantly trying to weasel free food out of people, and even some people he knows are struggling. So my boss then asked around and several others agreed with what I said. My coworker then gets dragged into the office and now he's pissed at me saying that I narked on him. Now, most of the office thinks he got what he deserved, but a few think that it wasn't worth getting him in trouble over. Today, no one when he asked would tell him what they were doing for lunch, and he's whining that we're alienating him. I told him he alienated himself because of his behavior. He said that I'm a complete a-hole, but I don't really feel bad, that a mooch who thinks it's funny to scam his coworkers thinks that I'm one, so am I? I personally think that OP's definitely not. I hate people like that, guys. Those who try to weasel a free meal out of people. Guys, I used to hang out with this one guy who would always seem to forget his wallet at places when we went to eat. Like, it happened way too many times, guys. And after him promising to pay back and he never did, we just stopped inviting him. But with that said, OP's coworker definitely got what he deserved, which was long overdue, by the way. That's some crazy entitlement. Don't get a free lunch from someone, just report them to the boss that they're being hostile. My friends, what do you think though? Do you have friends that constantly mooch off of others? Let me know in the comments down below. So this happened when I was at the grocery store, waiting in line to pay for my food. I waited in line for about 20 minutes and I was finally next in line. I knew the old lady in front of me wasn't gonna be quick, but whatever, I was next. So the old lady in front of me was about 70 years old, maybe more. She was wearing a hand-knitted hat and a cat hair-covered sweater with no teeth. She seemed so sweet and helpless. She handed the grocery clerk a coin purse and said, "This is all the money I have. I don't think it's gonna be enough." The clerk then asked her if she knew how much money was in the purse, and she said, "I don't know. That's your job to find out. You do it." Now, I'm thinking, okay, she looked sweet, but she was kinda rude, but whatever. I offered to help count it out. So the change came out to only about $8, and she had about $50 worth of groceries. I then asked if she had food stamps, to which she replied that she had run out. Now, I didn't have much money. I had maybe $100 to pay for my stuff, so I offered to help pay if she agreed to put back 3 cases of Pepsi she had. So the lady agrees, and I went ahead and paid and helped her bag her stuff. I then hear the kid say, "Oh no, I didn't remove the soda." Now, I wasn't upset with him. The poor guy made a mistake. But then, the lady says in a sing-song voice, "Yay, I get to keep my soda." Now at this point I said, "Wait, how did you expect to pay for all of this if you knew you didn't have enough money?" The old lady then says, "Ugh, someone always pays for me because they feel bad. You can't leave a helpless old woman alone." And I said to her, "Seriously, there's people out of work right now and you're okay with taking advantage of others like this?" Now behind me, the people have seen what's going on and are screaming at her to give me her 3 cases of soda since I paid for it so I can get a refund. Now this is the part where she goes from timid old lady to raging entitled hag in 2 seconds. She then starts screaming that we're trying to steal from a helpless old woman and that we should all be ashamed of ourselves. I then tell the people behind me that I don't want the soda and she can keep it since she needs her soda. And then I tell her straight. I said, "Lady, you are a scumbag. Here I am, struggling to purchase my own groceries, and so is everybody else here, and you have no shame. You just took from my children." At this, the old lady then reaches for her walker and then she swings it at me saying that she knows how to defend herself. While the cashier kid is almost in tears, apologizing for causing this. Another cashier grabbed her walker and then escorts her out, as I told her to F right off. I've never yelled at an old lady before, and I did try to comfort the cashier and tell him that it's not his fault. He's doing his best. But I do feel like such a tool, and I want that lady run over with her own scooter. Well, my friends, at that point, I think I would have kept all the groceries that I paid for, especially when I found out what she was doing. I lost my faith in humanity at that point. The entitlement of this old lady is absolutely insane. I'm old, so you have to help me out. Today it's you, tomorrow it's someone else. What's that saying? No good deed goes unpunished, right? But listen, if you were in an OP situation, what the heck would you do? Okay, so a while ago, I was at my aunt's garage sale. I was about 14 years old at the time. She was a kind of a pack rat, so her garage sales were more like sales for anything she dug up in her basement and moved to the garage. This also meant that she had garage sales often. Now, my aunt said that I could sell whatever I wanted as long as I helped her run the garage sale, which basically meant occasionally making transactions and making sure that people didn't steal stuff. So I saw it as the perfect opportunity to sell some old Nerf guns that I didn't want anymore. Now, it was about 1 p.m., and I had been with my aunt since 8 a.m. with no luck selling any of my Nerf guns. Although I wasn't surprised, because most of the people that came were probably in their 60s. Finally, a woman comes with her son who looked to be about 5 years old. Immediately, the boy comes to where I was sitting and starts picking up the guns and asking his mom to please buy him the one that he was playing with. She then saw the price tag of $20 and asked me why I thought that I'd get so much for a toy gun. I told her it's because it's one of the battery-powered automatic ones and it was originally like $45. I also said it was negotiable because I was definitely willing to lower the price or throw in another gun since $20 is kind of a lot. And honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted some extra money and to get rid of my Nerf guns. Well, she did not like that, and she immediately started ranting about how if I don't care, then why am I charging such an outrageous amount? She then said that clearly I had no use for them, so I should just give it to her son for free. I told her something along the lines of, I was sorry she was offended by the price, but there is no way I was gonna sit at a garage sale all morning just to give my stuff away for free. Now, I don't remember what was said after that, but she was getting more and more flustered, so my aunt started to walk over to see what's going on. At this point, the woman ushered her son to leave and to get into the car, but he was still holding my Nerf gun. I told my aunt that she didn't pay for it, so we walked to the woman's car and told her that she had to give it back or we would call the police. At this point, she starts freaking out, saying, "Who the heck threatens to call the police on a little boy?" She then gave the Nerf gun back, and my aunt just told her to not come back, and she drove off screaming at us. Now, I did feel bad for the kid, so I just wanted to give him the gun for free, but my aunt told me not to, because it would make the mom think that what she did was okay. Honestly, good on OP's aunt for standing her ground against that entitled woman. I don't understand the logic of some people though. Well, if you don't need it, you should just give it to me for free. Lady, I don't really need it, but I could use the money I'd get from selling it. And that's why I'm selling it. Okay, so this story took place about 7 or 10 years ago, and I'll do my best to get this exactly verbatim. We lived on a base, and we lived in a neighborhood where a lot of families would get together outside and play when the weather was nice. The kids would run around, and the grown-ups would play volleyball that was set up between a couple of houses. We would also have a massive barbecue, where everybody would pitch in. We learned what everybody's specialties were, and that's pretty much what the person bought. Some people showed no affinity for having a specialty, which meant that those people usually just showed up anyways and would just eat the food. Now with that said, we had one neighbor who can make the best marinated steaks. Let's call him Joe. And I mean, wow. I often made ribs, but I was really known for my bartending skills. I would make mudslides, margaritas, and other stuff, but everybody wanted margaritas and mudslides. Now, I do have a little bit of a passion for making mixed drinks. It's fun. I also really don't like cheap liquor, and this fact became an issue. Now, it all depended on what we were doing, for who would pitch in for what. My husband and I had an agreement with Joe and his family. They agreed to purchase our steaks if I made them drinks during the get-togethers, and I would usually buy the good stuff, between $100 to $200 per bottle of Patron. I had no problem with that, because we were more than happy with the trade. I loved their steaks and they loved my drinks. And then enters the entitled Karen. So I was making drinks, and even though Karen and her family didn't bring anything to the barbecue, they were still a part of the neighborhood, and I was more than willing to make them a drink. I welcomed them to my kitchen, where I had a bar set up for the party. I want to note that my good liquor was in the cupboard above my head. It was out of sight. So the conversation goes something like this. I said, "Hey, what would you like to drink?" Karen says, "One of your margaritas." I asked her, "Okay, what kind? The original flavor, mango, strawberry, or strawberry mango?" She replied strawberry mango. I then asked her if she wanted sugar on the rim, and she said yes. I went about making the drink, and she's watching me, and she's giving me a really weird look. So I look at her and said, "What?" Karen says, "Why are you using cheap liquor?" I told her because that's what I use during large parties. She says, "I know you give Joe and his wife drinks with your Patron. I think you should make me a drink at least as good as the one you make them." I told her, "Believe me, your drink will still taste very good." With that, Karen then says, "Then why did you put Patron in theirs? And what kind do you put in your drinks?" I tell her, "Well, I put Patron in mine because I like it. And I put it in theirs because they bought our steaks." She says, "So you aren't being nice, you're making them pay for it." I told her, "I guess you could say we trade." Karen then says, "So you're telling me if I go home and grab some chip dip, then you'll have to remake my drink with the good stuff." I told her, "No, I'm sorry, but that's not happening." Karen then whines and says, "But why?" So at this point, I tell her to take her drink and let's go back outside. And I show her back outside. Not 5 minutes later, I see her give her drink to her underage son, who I know's only 17 years old. Now, his parents did, but everybody made it clear that we're not okay with it, and that under no circumstances should they ever share anything they get from us. At this time, the woman was telling her husband to watch me because she's gonna sneak into my house and make a drink with, quote, the good stuff. Now, I happen to be standing next to Joe when we hear this, and we look at each other. And I, of course, am like, heck no. I then run across the street, as she's just looking around, but clearly heading to my house. As she makes it about 5 feet from my door, I say loudly, "Hey, what are you doing?" She then stops and turns to face me, Joe, my husband, Joe's wife, and a couple of others who overheard what's happening. Karen had a look, like she had her hand caught in a cookie jar. She says, "You seemed busy. I spilled my drink, so I was gonna go into your house to make myself another one. I didn't think you would mind." So Joe then tells her, "Yeah, that's not what you said." I then say to her, "Hey, Joe and I saw you give your drink to your son, who by the way we all know is underage. Then we heard you say you were gonna go to my house to take the good stuff." Now at this point, Karen argues back and says, "Well, you made me a drink with the cheap crap. I can't drink that." I tell her, "You're lucky we don't call the police." She then replies, "You are being cheap. We're all hanging out and you're picking and choosing who to make good drinks for like you're up on a pedestal, determining who deserves something good." The others then chime in that unless she starts bringing something equal to the barbecues, then she and her family can stop attending. She then says that this is a public street and she can attend if she wants to. I told her it is, but it doesn't mean that we have to share with you. Also, if I ever see your son drinking alcohol again in my yard, I will call the police. And if I ever see you in my yard, I'll call the police. It's our choice who we share with and how we share. It's not your right to just go and take anything. If you try again, I will press charges for stealing. So with that, she walked off, and she never came over again. Entitled neighbors are the worst, aren't they? Like, how can you have the audacity to complain when Opie's offering you a drink and you didn't bring anything to contribute to the barbecue? And on top of that, complain about the drink and then try to sneak into Opie's house to get better alcohol. Like, wow. So, here's some backstory. My next door neighbor was a terrible busybody who felt like it was her God-given right to tell everybody in our street what they could and couldn't do. from where they parked their cars to what flowers they could grow. She had to know everyone's business, and she would harass people until she got answers, even going as far as stalking. But that's for other stories. If she didn't get her way, she would spread the most evil gossip. Her adult children, a son and daughter, were both greedy and deeply entitled. They believed that because the majority of the street were either social housing or rented properties, that they were better than everybody else, and if they didn't get what they wanted, then Mother would sort it out. Now, I do have many stories about this neighbor far worse than this, but I will start off with this one, as it's the most mild thing she's done, and this fits in the subreddit better. So the sons own 2 other properties near the end of the street, which he rents out. At the very end of the same street is another house with a plot of land right next to it. The owners of that house and land built a garage that they use for work, rebuilding old cars and bikes. The business is at least 30 years old, handed down from father to son. Now, it's very small, and they can only work on one vehicle at a time, but due to the owner's skills at restoration, they are always in high demand. One day about 10 years ago, the son rocks up in his latest BMW, and he walks up to the owner, a father and his teenage son. He walks up to them and says, "Hey guys, it's your lucky day. I want to buy your land. I'll give you about £15,000. Now notice that he didn't ask if it was for sale or offer to negotiate a fair price. The owner says, no, sorry, the business isn't for sale. Thanks for the interest though. The son then says, I wasn't asking for your business. You can set up somewhere else. I want the land. It's the right size to build another house on. At this, the owner says, well, sorry, no, this is our livelihood. We can't just move. We would lose business while looking for someplace else, and besides, it used to be my father's garage and next door to our home, so why would we want to sell it? The son replies, so you can make money. The owner then tells him, but we make money working here, so sorry, but it's not for sale. So the son then does what you'd expect a grown man of 30 years old to do. He complained to his mother. His mother takes no time at all to walk back to the garage, and she says, why won't you sell your garage to my son? He wants to build a house here. The owner tells her, because this is our place of business, and we don't want to sell. She says, you shouldn't even be working here, it's dangerous. Oh, I can assure you, ma'am, everything's up to code, and we have every right to work here. Now, could you please leave us alone? She then asked, what are you hiding in there? Is it drugs? The owner tells her, no, we're fixing up an old bike. And she says, I knew it. You're working here illegally. If you don't sell your land to my son, I will contact the authorities. Now at that, the owner laughed and told her, go ahead. She then storms off and they thought it was over. Just the nutty ravings of a mad granny, right? But an hour later, sure enough, the police arrive. Apparently, an anonymous caller called them to say that the owners had been dealing drugs out of the garage. Now, it was obvious who called them. Of course, all the neighbors had seen the police arrive. Now, our street is normally quiet, and we're all nosy bastards, so when you see a blue flashing light, you step up and watch the show unfold. The entitled mother takes great glee in telling everybody that stood around and watched the chaos how the owners had been selling drugs to children, and how she wasn't the one who called them, but, quote, everybody knows what's going on, and thank goodness something's finally being done about it. Now, half the neighbors were shocked at this event, but a few longer-term residents were already giving her the side-eye, like it was a special offer at a Tesco or Walmart. She must have been feeling pretty smug with herself. Only, there was a snag. Just a little one. Because the tiny garage worked on rare and old cars that can be expensive, the owners had CCTV, and that was something the entitled mother had not counted on. After the police had shown up, the owners knew who the culprit was and had no issue with showing footage, complete with sound, showing the mom threatening to call police if they didn't sell the land. With half the neighbors out watching the events unfold, the mom's face switched from smugness to fear as police walked away from the garage and approached her instead. The officer then asked if they could step inside her home to discuss something that she probably didn't want her neighbors to hear. She received a warning regarding harassment and wasting police time. The owners of the garage were never bothered again, and the last remaining neighbors who didn't know how bad she was finally saw her for the witch she was. Sorry the ending's not that epic, but that's just how it was. Ho hum. My friends, I'll never get sick and tired of hearing stories about people calling the cops when they don't get their way, and just getting embarrassed for it. That woman and her kids should be so ashamed for trying to pull that little stunt on the owner and his son. And I'm so glad they had video footage to shut her down. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our entitled people. Guys, we survived another one. If you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. A Karen throws a tantrum in an airport and demands to be upgraded to first class on a flight. Guys, and she gets taught a lesson. Go check it out if you haven't listened to it, and myself and Steve-O will see you guys in the next one. We love you.